Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're back in another episode of Commander Cheapskate Gamer Reviews. And this series is dedicated to reviewing various products related to the miniature wargaming hobby. And on today's episode, we're going to take out this really cool looking supplement to your games of Necromunda. I actually got this from the Yaktribe community that you can actually join up to it. It's absolutely free. You can actually log in, create your account. They have wonderful tools available for people who like to play Necromunda, especially if you like playing the classical version of Necromunda that was released back in the 1990s, as well as the current set of Necromunda as well. You could do things like update your gang rosters, make fighter cards, you can publish your lists. There's plenty of forums for you to ask questions about. It's absolutely amazing. I've recently actually joined up with this community myself, and I'll start publishing out some different forums myself up on that website. And when I was going through it, I actually found this really interesting rule supplement. This rule supplement's called Necromunda Book of the Sump. Now, I will preface this review with saying that this is totally unofficial. As you can see right here in their little subtitle, they say that it's an unofficial supplement. It's actually created by two people named Capper Cook as well as Alexander Lunde. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I mispronounce your names, I do apologize for that part. And then at the same time, we have artworks by Carl Johnston as well. And this is actually a unique and actually very interesting rule set that is available for players if they want to play in the Sump of Necromunda. Now, in this video, because the video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will be putting timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can click and navigate to the part that interests you the most. So that being said, let's talk about Necromunda's Book of the Sump. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about Necromunda's Book of the Sump real quick by talking about its table of contents. And one of the things I'd like to notice real quick about this book is you can see the desktop publishing on this book is absolutely fantastic. Now, if you didn't know any better, you would think this is actually a real supplement. It's got the beautiful artwork as well as page numbering spread throughout as well. It's got really cool artwork as well as photographs of current projects that these guys have put together with miniatures, vehicles, as well as actually terrain that they created. So it's beautifully done as well. So here's the table of contents. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in detail. Now, in case you're not aware what the Sump is the very bottom layer of the Necromunda Hive Primus. So if you go through the top of the spires all the way down to the Underhive, where most of the Necromunda story takes place, on the very bottom of a place called the Sump. And the Sump is basically where all the drainage and refuge of the hive pretty much kind of matriculates down the entire Underhive and ends up in the very bottom of Necromunda, basically the basement. They call it the Sump. It's this huge sea of just chemicals and waste and all kinds of really bad stuff. It's a really disgusting place. But like anything in Necromunda, this actually has some uses. People actually go to the Sump Sea in order to do a couple of things. The first thing they go after giant sump spiders, what they know as, that live along the superstructures that we can found spread throughout the interior of the Sump Sea. The reason why is because their eyes are like gemstones. They're actually quite valuable, so people actually go down there and hunt those creatures. At the same time, they also go down there looking for archaeotech, pieces of lost technology, hidden treasures that might be found in the Sump, and they actually leave from actual Sump settlements spread along the coast of the Sump, and they actually sell out and go in there and they come back. Think of Discovery Channel's Deadliest Catch, but except and combine that with Mad Max. It's pretty much like being the Ash Waste, but except of using vehicles, you're using boats for the most part as well. And the largest of the settlements, of course, is called Sump City, is the name of the place as well. But the neat thing about this book is not only they give you information about Sump City itself, but they also have a brand new setting called Bone Harbor as well as Gildersford, where this campaign actually takes place into. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on the lore aspect of this booklet. If you want to check it out, this is absolutely free to download from Yaktribe. You just go to their forums and look for it. It's absolutely amazing with a really cool, interesting background. What we're going to be focusing on, though, however, are on the campaign rules itself, as well as some of the new additional stuff that they actually made for this supplement. So with that being said, let's go and talk about the most important part to me, which is the campaign rules. So if you click on that real quick, as you can see, they talk about the campaign rules here, and they talk about how the board is set up pretty much for the most part. You pretty much have islands, refuge, all kinds of stuff as well. And here's a cool thing about this. You have this thing called sledge diving, where as a post-action, you can actually have your gangers and sometimes even your juvies dive into the Sump and roll a d6 to see what they might be able to pull out to actually generate some additional income for your fighters as well. At the same time, every single week, you can also roll up on the Sump Sea event table. They have things like low tide, which means that each scenario rewards both players extra d6 times 10 credits, or like Sump Fog, like for example, if you roll 6s before making a range attack, each fighter must make an intelligence check. If failed, the attack suffers an additional -1 to hit modifier, and the weapon gains a reckless trait for this attack. So there's all kinds of cool things that you can actually add to your campaign with these campaign game mechanics they also have as well. Now, if you notice, for the territories, they don't have very many territories. They have what's called Spider Eyes Trade, Salvage Harbor, as well as Lighthouse. And the reason why they only have 3 territories in this setting is because of the way that these guys actually wrote the campaign setting. You're supposed to use also territories from the Dominion campaign, which was supposed to use for that, as well as these unique Sump territories as well. The idea is supposed to be because there is enough settlements as well as enough areas, urbanized areas around the Sump, that you could actually have a combination of both. You could play in the Underhive using Underhive rules, as well as playing out in the Sump Sea itself. And the reason why is because of the nautical nature of the location that the story actually takes place in. So that's another really cool game mechanic that we also have there as well. At the same time, we also have some information about trading posts, and we're going to talk about that next. All right, so now we're into the trading post. As you can see here, we actually have some new additional things that you can actually use that are specific to this campaign setting. Well, the cool ones is what's called auxiliary weapons, which basically means you can add this to any basic weapon that you actually have, which are gunk spray, which allows you to spray gunk onto people. Basically what that does is it makes them slower to move around. At the same time, makes it easier to catch on fire. You also have auxiliary harpoon launcher for 35 credits that you can add to your vehicles as well. You also have access to what is known as the pincer servo claw, which kind of looks like a crab claw servo claw. You also have the grab hook, which is a weapon that Mad Dog Mono uses, which is basically just a grappling hook on a staff. You can use that to fight with. You also have a brand new heavy weapon called the Spider Hunter's Harpoon, which is basically an upgraded harpoon. You also have the Subnautica suit that you can purchase for your guys for 50 credits, which allows you to actually dive into the Sump as well as beast lures, as well as air jackets for 30 and 10 credits apiece. So let's go and talk about these real quick. So it says gunk sprays as well as auxiliary harpoons. It says some gangers mount small tanks under their weapons filled with gunk, which can be used to slow down fast opponents such as some spiders, or as boarding weapons, spraying thick goo onto other boats and making them more flammable. Others attach crude tubes of small harpoons to their normal weapons in case of unexpected hunt. So for a gunk spray, it's got a template attack, strength 2 of course, but has the gunk special rule, which basically slows down your opponents. At the same time, a single shot, template shot as well. It also makes it easier to catch on fire. And then you have the auxiliary harpoon, which is in a 4-inch range, 12-inch long range, +2 if you're within 4 inches, strength 4, -3 AP, -1 damage with a 6+ ammo roll, and you got the drag, impale, as well as a scarce attribute attached to that. For your Spider Hunter harpoon, it says as the main weapon of the Spider Hunters, it has used explosive materials and launch harpoons with much greater force than standard ones usually employed by gangs in the Underhive. Hunters usually mount these on their boats for greater stability and to give them longer dragging ropes. So this thing has a 9 to 18-inch range. It's got a +2 advantage for short range, strength 7 -3 AP with 2 damage, as well as 5+ ammo. It's got drag, impale, scarce, as well as unwieldy. So it's a much more powerful harpoon that you can use to actually hunt down animals with or other vehicles. Now we have the pincer pattern servo claw. It's a melee weapon. It gives you +2 to your strength, -2 AP, 1 damage with melee, as well as sever. So because of that, if you manage to put a wound on it, your opponent automatically goes into action. And of course we have the grab hook, which has got a 2-inch versatile attack. It's based on your strength with 1 damage as well, and it causes disarm, melee, as well as versatile. Then we have the new war gear, the Subnautica suit, which basically says the type of armor granting a 5+ armor save. In addition, thanks to its closed air circulation, fighters wearing it gain immunity to gas attacks, can act normally while on fire, though they may still take damage, and may ignore key to breathe air quality. Lastly, instead of activating, they can dive into any liquid terrain feature within 1 inch and emerge anywhere on the board from any liquid terrain at the start of the next turn before the priority phase. But diving the Sump Sea or traveling the pipes is very dangerous, especially in the Underhive. Before emerging, the fighter should roll a d6 on a 1. The poor diver has lost or attacked by some creature and goes out of action. Due to its impracticality, air supply bottles, fighters wearing a Subnautica suit can only make 1 move action, which is a basic action, per turn, unless they have a strength characteristic of 3 or higher. Fighters wearing a Subnautica suit adds +1 to the roll when performing a sledge diving post action. So we have that really cool game mechanic. Then we have a Beast Lure. It says each Beast Lure can only be used once per battle. As a shoot basic action, Beast Lures have the following profile. Beast Lure's got, you launch it for 3 times your strength, strength 1, 1 damage, 3-inch blast with a lure. And this lure special rule says when blast marker is placed in this final position after any scatter, place 1 beast layer token under the center of the blast marker. Blast layer rules can be found on page 121 of the Necromunda rulebook. And then we have air jackets, which says fighters equipped with air jackets automatically pass strength tests, required not to drown when in the Sump, sea, or similar terrain feature with non-aggressive liquid. For example, air jacket will help them rise to Sludge River, but not in a pool of acid. So these are some really cool things you get from the trading post that you can now have in this setting as well. And with that being said, let's talk about vessels, which are the vehicles that you use to sail upon the Sump Sea. So let's go ahead and talk about vessels next. So this booklet was actually written before, I believe, the supplement from the Apocrypha Necromunda rules that actually talks about actually how you could use vehicles in the Sump. They actually give you two different type of vehicles. I believe there's sledges and barges is what they originally came out with from the Necromunda Apocrypha rules. But the nice thing about this rule is that they go a little bit more in depth about it. So for your vessels here, they says when your vessels created using the custom vehicle rules with light custom vehicles representing boats, medium custom vehicles representing barges, and heavy custom vehicles representing ships. Regardless of type, vessels do apply the jury rig special rule and will always gain the locomotion type of vessel. Vessels can only operate on liquid terrain such as canals, rivers, or some seas. If for any reason more than 50% of the vessel is no longer than liquid, such as terrain or running aground, a vessel is automatically wrecked. All vessels come equipped with a transport bed, which is represented by their decks. In a sub-sea campaign, if using vessels in your gang, each gang gains additional 400 credits that they can be spent on vehicles, fighters that come default with war gear that grants the mounted condition, or are on war gear that grants the mounted condition. Any unspent credits from this allowance are lost after the gang is founded. And it says, to the sump bottom, severely damaged vessels must be towed away from the sump before any repairs can be made. If a wrecked vessel suffers a write-off lasting damage result, the gang needs to pay D3 times 10 credits to retrieve the vehicle after the battle. And they have a sinking hazard. Any fighter marked in the transport cage and the vehicle is wrecked must pass a strength test in order, in addition to any other effects. If the test is failed, this fire automatically goes out of action as well. And then we have some extra war gear. We have sails. It says crews of vessels equipped with sails may make a handling check at the start of its activation. If passed, the vessel will move D6 inches in any direction. If failed, the vessel will move the direction showed by a scatter die roll. The movement does not count towards the vehicle's activation and may be still undertaken if the vehicle is immobilized for any reason. So that's kind of neat to have that little sail type of game mechanic as well. We also have ones called searchlight. A searchlight must be mounted on the weapon hardpoint. A vehicle fitted with searchlights can turn them on or off at the start of their activation. They remain in the selected state until the next activation. While a searchlight is on, all models at 8 inches in line of sight and within the weapon hardpoint arc are revealed. In addition, while the searchlights are on, the vehicle equipped with them is also revealed. And then we have a small watercraft. If players agree, they can use the Wasteland or dirt bikes rules to represent jet ski or other small watercraft in the same way as vessels. Small watercraft can only be operated on liquid terrain such as canals, rivers, or some seas. So starting to get some serious water world vibes from some of these rules as well. As you can see here, for the most part, they basically have the same kind of rules for it. It says during the course of the campaign, a vessel may be fitted with additional war gear and vehicle upgrades from the custom vehicle weapons list. It says during the course of the campaign, any vessel hardpoint can be equipped with a weapon from this list or the basic, special, or heavy sections of the trading post or the black market. So as you can see, we have pretty much the same kind of things going on throughout the same kind of upgrades that you get from the ash waste as well. So we have body upgrades, engine upgrades as well. We also have engine upgrades down here at the bottom for drive. We also have heavy weapons as well as boarding gear. So all kinds of cool stuff that we can actually have when it comes to actually making this list. And that's pretty much how you go about making vessels using these rules from the Sump Sea book. So now let's talk about arbitrator tools real quick. So this book even has quite a bit of arbitrator tools. Like I said before, we have this Sump Spider that we talked about earlier, which is the creature that people come down here to hunt. And the reason why is because the eyes that they actually have, which is actually quite valuable for them. As you can see, this thing has some really wicked stats for close combat, as well as be able to spray webs, as well as toxic attacks as well. We also have smaller swarms as well as the Mongoose one itself, the big boy himself with the rarest of creatures, causing 5 D3 times 10 credits to your stash. You manage to kill this type of creature. So those are some really cool rules that we have there as well. We also have Sump Bat Swarms. You can also have two, which are a brand new game mechanic on this as well. We also have Rat Swarms being listed off here, as well as some other unique creatures. We have the Sump Stalker, which is a monster that basically travels around the sump destroying things. I believe this is a in-the-universe monster that they actually just for this setting that these guys created as well. See, they got some really cool stats and rules attached to it. The same thing with Ariel, which is the evil like sump mermaid creature that lures men to their death, kind of like a siren. So you can see some really cool things there as well. There's some really cool artwork. At the same time, we also have a new Dramatis Personae character, Mad Captain Ahab, for example. They talk about some of the things that he's going after as well with his special rules, as well as his credit costs as well. And then we have a new hanger-on called a Sump Captain. This guy costs 70 credits. He's got movement of 5 characteristic, 3 plus weapon skill, bliss skill, strength and toughness, 2 wounds, 3 initiative, 3 attacks, 5 leadership, 6 cool, 7 willpower and intelligence. He's got the part of the crew special rule as well as captain, which means a vehicle with a vessel locomotion type may reroll either one failed handling check or one missed shooting attack per round whilst a Sump captain hanger-on is embarked on the transport deck or transport cage. So this guy is good to have around, especially if you're out there in the oceans. He also got a Cyber Crow, which gives him basically 360-degree arc. He's also an outlaw, so that's something that's kind of interesting as well. And if you decide to hire this guy, you become an outlaw yourself. He's also got what's it called, mesh armor, a pincer pattern servo claw, and a shotgun with auxiliary harpoon. He also has the unstoppable skill as well. So that part is some of the cool things that you have here with some of the arbitrator tools as well as the hanger-ons that you have. So now that we're done talking about that, let's go out and talk about some of the scenarios that are available as well. Alright, so now we're back with the Sump scenarios. As you can see, they actually have this little design note which is not only on the seas. So because of that, you could actually play kind of like a hybrid where you actually have guys having action taking place on the open sump and the open sea. At the same time, you can also have scenarios that take place along the settlements as well as along the shoreline as well. So that part is absolutely cool. So it's really neat. So if you're one of those kind of players who are thinking about maybe doing like a Sump Sea campaign, but you don't have enough vehicles yet to make ships and things, you can still play on the land if you want to. So you can still do a lot of cool, interesting things if you want with this. So he gives actually a couple, these guys actually give us a couple of really good ones. We have boarding actions, and basically boarding actions are basically like your typical like fighting out on the open seas, for example. As you can see, they have some really cool rewards, experience, tactic cards, and all kinds of really cool things that we have here as well. At the same time, we have a harbor cargo takeover. Basically go and try to extract cargo from a dock, as you can see here, and they actually have some information about that. We also have the Sump spider hunt, where you actually go out and go after the spiders, which is actually kind of cool as well. So all kinds of really cool things with this booklet, especially when it comes to those rules. Now, one of the cool things about this as well is that these guys have actually included photographs of some of their like Sump captains, as well as Captain Ahab, for example, as well as some really cool environmental effects with some of the fighters that they have. For example, they kind of show you exactly here like what the Sump Sea would kind of look like if you're out there fighting on the land side anyways. Here's an example of a terrain tile for the Sump City radio broadcast station, which is the Sump City podcast guys. They actually have that as well. They even have some examples of some boats and some rafts look like too that they've actually cobbled together. As you can see here, they have some more little flavor photos here showing the Sump as well as guys sailing out in the open seas. You can see right over here too where they have like some of the slavers, for example. We have a lighthouse terrain piece that they actually built. This looks absolutely fantastic. Looks really, really cool. I like the way they actually did that with the giant lighthouse on the top there. What I really like, though, is their concept of boats, rafts, and barges. As you can see, they took a bunch of different types of terrain. It looks like they made a lot of homemade type of vehicles as well. These things look absolutely fantastic. They look like the type of barges you can imagine just kind of out there floating around in the Sump Sea going after things. See, they got harpoon guns on the bows of each of their ships, for example. That looks absolutely fantastic as well. As you can see here, we got Ariel as well. This trash collecting ship right here is really, really cool looking. You can see all the scrap that they have, as well as that giant servo claw that they have attached to it for it to go up and grab things and dump it down here. You can imagine you can see a bunch of gangers just kind of like on the gangways here, sifting through it, looking for anything valuable at the same time. You got this little cow looking thing, which is like decaying there in the water as well. You also have some fighting taking place on the land side where they're going after the Sump spiders. They have some examples of some gangs that these guys use as well as like the Sump Stalker as well as Ariel. So all kinds of really cool materials they actually put together. See some Sump spiders they use in order to create their monsters. It just looks absolutely fantastic, and these things look really, really cool as well. Also, if you want to see a really cool channel on YouTube, there's a guy called JD and the Sump Sea, and those guys actually have a beautiful, beautiful videos, series of videos that shows all the Sump terrain that they actually have. They actually have huge amounts of it on YouTube. If you haven't checked those guys out, do check them out. They have some really impressive terrain that they have, as well as some setups that they've created for their games. They got an amazing gladiatorial combat pit on their channel that talks about how they do a lot of pit fighting in that, which looks really cool too. I'll put their channel in the description box down below so that we can check it out as well. So you can see just a lot of cool flavor images that kind of show you exactly what the setting would look like that you're going out there, what you're doing fighting, like a toll bridge here, what it would look like if you're going out to the Sump Sea to do your business and stuff. It's just really neat how like the gaming community creates things like this for stuff. And this is actually absolutely free to download. It's totally unofficial, of course, but still, it's really, really neat how they did this. And in fact, like I said before, if you didn't know any better, you would assume this was actually professionally made. Absolutely fabulous production design on this. I just love all these different things they have. They also give you some ideas for some Sump City radio posters if you want to use that for your campaign as well. So just really cool, really interesting rule set. And the best part about it, it's free to download from Yaktribe if you want to check it out. All right, you guys, so there you have it. This is our overall review of the Necromunda Book of the Sump, the unofficial supplement that's available to download from Yaktribe. I highly recommend you go check this out. This book is really, really cool. It's got some really interesting rules, as well as some really cool game mechanics as well. Really cool campaign rules, as well as some really interesting scenarios too. In fact, it was so inspiring by actually reading this. My friends and I are actually thinking about actually making a small little mini campaign that's actually set in the Book of the Sump. For those of you guys who are longtime viewers of the channel, we actually do this little series every once in a while called It Came from the Sump, where it's more of like a horror themed, like little mini campaign that we do sometimes. And I actually think about maybe actually doing that for a battle report. Of course, I gotta line up my friends and see if we can actually do it. Things are pretty chaotic right now in my personal life, where I really can't really have time to actually create gaming right now. But still, if I can manage to swing it, I'd love to do one set within this setting using these rule sets. So go check this rule set out. You can find this on Yaktribe. It's free to join. Just add it to your email to log in. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So Casper Cook, as well as Alexander Lunde, as well as Carl Johnston, if you guys are watching this, excellent work on this, excellent job on the supplement, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So that's good to do for this, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.
Cheapskate